7 months back, I didn't see any of this coming. My wife, Hannah, crossed paths with this guy, Ethan, at some fancy networking shindig thrown by a marketing outfit in Philly. Hannah's a driven project manager at a real estate company, always hustling. From what she told me later, Ethan's smooth talk and sharp humor pulled her in like a magnet. They hit it off, chatting like old friends, and by the end of the night, they swapped numbers, pretending it was just for work stuff. At first, their texts were harmless, shop talk, a few laughs about boring office life, maybe some shared gripes. But things shifted. Ethan started opening up about feeling stuck in a marriage that's lost its spark. Hannah, well, she admitted to feeling overlooked at home. I hate thinking about it now, but I guess I was part of that. Their late-night messages turned personal, and what started as a friendly connection got messy, fast. Life with Hannah and me wasn't bad, mind you. We've got 3 kids, a solid house in a quiet Montana neighborhood, and I've always tried to be the dependable guy. I manage the bills, keep the yard trimmed, and make sure the kids get to soccer practice. But somewhere along the line, our marriage settled into a routine, like a song stuck on repeat. I didn't notice how much Hannah missed the thrill of something new until it was too late. She felt guilty, she said, but Ethan's attention lit her up in a way I hadn't in years. Ethan, a sales hotshot with a knack for storytelling, would go on about his wild younger days, hopping from city to city across the globe. Those tales got under Hannah's skin, making her dream of a life beyond our cul-de-sac. One day, he floated the idea of a getaway to Costa Rica, painting it as some life-changing paradise. Hannah hesitated at first, but Ethan's words were like a siren call. She couldn't shake the idea of breaking free, even just for a bit. To pull it off, Hannah cooked up a story. She told me she had a work conference in Denver, and she arranged for the kids to bunk with her folks. Planning it all gave her a rush, like she was starring in some secret adventure flick. The night before she left, she sat in her study, typing out a letter meant for me. She didn't know if she'd ever show it to me, but it was her way of sorting out her feelings, pouring out her love for our family while hinting she needed room to grow. She tucked it into her desk drawer, figuring it'd stay hidden unless things went south. At the airport in Philly, Hannah and Ethan sat in a crowded lounge, waiting for their flight to Costa Rica. After weeks of sneaking around and hyping themselves up, they were finally off. Hannah, wiped out from packing, leaned against Ethan, her eyes fluttering shut as she imagined 2 weeks of freedom. But then Ethan's phone buzzed, snapping them out of it. He glanced at the screen and muttered, "Hey, don't forget to switch your phone to airplane mode." "Didn't bring it," Hannah said with a shrug. Ethan's face tightened as he read a text. I found out later it said, "Touch her, Ethan, and you'll wish you hadn't." Hannah caught his panic and pressed him. "What's going on?" He passed her the phone without a word. "You didn't tell your wife?" Hannah hissed, frustrated. "She knows?" Ethan tried to play it cool, saying he'd told his wife he was headed to a training seminar in Chicago and packed while she was out. "No way anyone's onto us," he insisted, but his eyes kept darting around like he wasn't so sure. He suggested they check in with home to cover their tracks. Ethan dialed his wife, but it went to voicemail, so he left some breezy message. Hannah, though, she refused to call me. Said it'd only make her second-guess herself. Their chat got cut off when boarding started. The easy vibe they'd had was gone, replaced by this awkward tension. Ethan kept scanning the crowd, half expecting trouble. On the plane, Hannah leaned into him, looping her arm through his. "Why no phone?" he asked again. "It's part of my plan," she said, all cryptic-like. "You'll see." Once they were cruising at 35,000 feet, Hannah pulled out her laptop and opened a file. "I've been chewing on this for a while," she told Ethan, sliding it over. "This is for my husband. He'll find it tonight. Gives him 2 weeks to think things over. Depending on what he says, this trip could be a fresh start, or back to square one." The letter she showed Ethan went something like this. "Dear Mason, for 25 years, I've loved you with everything I've got. Our kids, our home, the life we've carved out, it's my whole world. You're a damn good husband, and I'm grateful for you every day. But I need to come clean. I've spent years putting our family first, rarely asking for anything just for me. Now, I'm feeling like it's time for something else. I'm not at a work thing these next 2 weeks, I'm taking time to figure myself out. I left my phone behind so we can both think clearly, no interruptions. I treasure what we have, but I'm craving experiences I've never chased before. I'm asking for your blessing to explore a little, outside our marriage. My heart's still yours, always will be. If you're okay with it, I'll keep it quiet, respectful. If it ever gets out, I'll stop cold. If you say no, I'll respect that, and we'll keep on like always. Take these 2 weeks to mull it over. I trust you to decide with the same love you've always shown. Looking back, that letter was like a match waiting to spark. Hannah didn't know it then, but leaving it where I'd find it set off a chain reaction neither of them could have predicted. Looking back, I can't believe how blind I was to what Hannah was planning. After Ethan read that letter on the plane, he looked at her, stunned. "Damn, Hannah," he said, "this is bold." She grinned, proud of herself. "Pretty good, huh?" I did lift a couple lines from a spicy short story I found online. Ethan raised an eyebrow, curious. "You're calling this your ticket to freedom?" "Exactly," Hannah told him, leaning back in her seat. "I'm asking Mason to let me explore a bit outside our marriage. If he says yes, I'm free to live without the guilt eating me up. If he says no, I'll know where we stand. Plus, let's be real, finding someone else who gets me like you do. Not easy." "You think he'll just go along with it?" Ethan asked, sounding doubtful. "Bet on it," Hannah shot back, all confidence. I made his call. If he says no, we keep this on the down low. If he says yes, it's a win, he'll feel like he's got the reins. Ethan frowned, not buying it. It doesn't add up. To him, it's not just logic, it's a gut punch. You're basically saying he's not cutting it. No guy's gonna take that lying down. He'll either push back hard or shut down. "You don't know Mason like I do," Hannah said, unshaken. "He respects straight talk. It's a gamble, sure, but I've thought it through." Ethan studied her, thrown off by how coolly she'd planned it all. He wasn't above stretching the truth himself, but Hannah's calculated moves gave him pause. Still, he couldn't help asking, "That story you pulled from, how'd it end? Did the woman get what she was after?" Hannah's face clouded over. "Nope. Her husband threw her out, and she regretted everything." Sensing her unease, Ethan switched gears. "Speaking of weird stuff, I saw something odd back at the terminal. Some guy kept staring at me. When I looked over, he dragged his finger across his throat. Creeped me out." Hannah's eyes narrowed. "What did he look like?" "Tall, over 6 feet, dark hair, scruffy beard." "Just a regular dude," Ethan said, shrugging it off. Hannah's expression shifted as she flipped open her laptop and pulled up a photo of her standing next to me in front of our house. Her voice shook a bit. "Was this him?" Ethan squinted at the screen. "Maybe. Hard to say for sure." She stared at him, trying to figure out if he was being straight with her or hiding something. For the first time, doubt crept in. Ethan was cheating on his own wife, could she really trust him? What was he wearing? She pressed. Ethan rolled his eyes, annoyed. "Hannah, guys don't clock those details." Not letting up, she pushed further. "Didn't you say Mason dropped you off at the domestic terminal?" "Yeah, but I made sure he peeled out before I hopped the shuttle to International," Ethan said, sounding cocky. "He'd have to park, track me through the airport, and find me at check-in." "No way." His words didn't ease the knot in Hannah's stomach. Trying to distract her, Ethan nodded at the photo. "That's your place?" Caught off guard, she answered, "Yeah, that's ours. We bought the lot as an investment out in Boise. It's this rugged hillside spot overlooking a valley. Mason spent nearly 20 years building it himself, board by board. Every room's got its own vibe, wilderness murals in the bedrooms, sleek tech designs in the office. He even worked a little stream running under the foundation into the layout. Won some local design award for it." Ethan nodded, but his mind was elsewhere, stuck on the nagging feeling that someone, maybe me, was onto them. Their talk drifted to family, a topic they usually dodged. Ethan mentioned his 2 kids, ages 7 and 9. Hannah opened up about ours, our daughter, Claire, 24, just starting out as a corporate lawyer, and our teenage boys, Owen, 17, and Caleb, 14. Still rattled, Hannah tried to get her head straight. She started mentally listing priorities, lawyer, house, kids, mapping out what she'd do if this all blew up. The quiet between them grew heavy, and she kicked herself for not being more careful. She thought back to Thursday night, packing for the trip and double-checking everything to match her work conference story. I'd acted normal, even sweet, as we hung out together. Friday was business as usual. Hannah went to the office, had me pick her up since her car was in the shop, and we grabbed lunch with the kids. Later, we dropped the boys at her parents' place and had a chill night at home. Her excitement about the trip had blinded her to any warning signs. Saturday morning, she'd nudged me to help with her bags and get her to the airport quickly, breaking my habit of sticking around. At the time, my easy sure thing felt like a relief, but now it gnawed at her. Had I suspected something? She clung to the hope I was clueless. I didn't know her coworkers, and nobody at her job knew the truth about Costa Rica. That text Ethan got? Probably just a prank. The guy at the terminal? Some jerk with no manners. She kept telling herself that even if I started piecing things together, the letter she'd left in her desk gave her an out. It framed the trip as a retreat with a work friend. Still, Hannah wasn't taking chances. She decided to have Claire grab the letter before I could find it. During the flight, she drafted an email to Claire, saying she'd forgotten her phone at home and needed Claire to activate Ethan's number as her contact, claiming she'd bought a burner phone for the trip. She also asked Claire to snag the letter, calling it private and meant only for me. Hannah trusted Claire to keep it quiet. Once they touched down in Costa Rica, Hannah sent the email and used Ethan's phone to call me, acting like everything was fine. I didn't pick up when Hannah tried calling from Costa Rica. Hours later, worry was eating at her as she and Ethan checked into their hotel in San Jose. Our daughter, Claire, finally rang Ethan's phone, saying she'd done what Hannah asked, grabbed the letter from Hannah's desk. But then Claire dropped a bombshell. I'd taken our boys, Owen and Caleb, to our family's cabin up in the Idaho backwoods for the weekend. She said I'd called her earlier, sounding off, and told her I needed space to think. Claire was planning to drive up that night. Hannah went still. I hadn't mentioned any cabin trip, and that place is so remote, it's cut off from cell service. The news hit her hard, and she hung up without digging deeper, too rattled to process it. Meanwhile, there I was at the cabin, firing up the grill for the kids. Owen and Caleb were begging me to take them hiking the next day, maybe hunt some small game for a campfire stew. I tried to keep things light, but Claire could tell I was distracted. That evening, she pulled me aside during a quiet moment. "Dad, is this about Mom?" she asked, straight to the point. "Yeah," I admitted, letting out a heavy breath. "She's been pulling away for months. Then yesterday, and this morning, some things came up that don't sit right." The air got thick as the kids leaned in, waiting. They're used to me being the steady one, always cracking jokes, not like this, serious, weighed down. I took a moment, then laid it out. "Your mom said she was going to a 2-week work thing in Denver. You guys heard her say that, right?" They nodded, and I went on. "Yesterday, I picked her up from her office. While I was waiting, I saw her talking to some guy in a conference room. Something about the way they stood, the looks they were giving each other, it felt wrong. She took her sweet time coming out, probably 15 minutes. I noticed his picture on a company board in the lobby. Name's Ethan Walsh. Even grabbed his card from the front desk. The kids hung on every word as I kept going. This morning, I couldn't sleep. I poked around in your mom's work bag and found her passport. There was a Costa Rican visa stamped a month back. I remembered her flipping through a travel guide for San Jose a while ago. Here's the thing, Costa Rica's not in Colorado. She lied about where she was headed. I paused, looking at their faces, trying to keep steady. You don't accuse someone you love of stepping out without proof. That's a big line to cross. Claire spoke up, her voice soft but firm. We get it, Dad. You and Mom always taught us to be honest, to respect each other, and to never betray trust. I nodded, feeling the weight of it. That's why this is tearing me up. This morning, your mom asked me to drop her at the domestic terminal and head out quickly. Usually, I'd stick around until her flight's called. Instead, I swung by the international terminal. Saw Ethan Walsh checking in. 20 minutes later, your mom showed up and did the same. I was too stunned to say anything. Claire hesitated, then asked, "Do you think she's?" "Yeah," I said, the word heavy. "I think your mom lied to us and went to Costa Rica with him." I turned away, trying to hide how much it hurt, but they saw it. One by one, they hugged me, Owen first, then Caleb. Claire stepped back, her voice small. "What are you gonna do, Dad?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "If she's crossed that line, it's done. Trust is everything to me. Even if she hasn't gone all the way, I'm not sure I can get past the lies. For now, I send a message to Ethan, warning him there'll be hell to pay if he lays a hand on her. Buys me time to figure this out. Claire's face tightened. But Dad, Mom said she left her phone at home. She wouldn't have seen it. My stomach dropped. What number did she give you to reach her? I asked, my tone sharper than I meant. Claire checked her phone, read off the first 6 digits, and I finished the last 4 from Ethan's business card. That sealed it. The truth hung in the room like smoke. Then Claire added, there's more. Mom asked me to grab a letter from her desk and give it to you. She handed it over, and I hesitated before opening it. Caleb piped up, his voice fierce for a 14-year-old. Dad, this is about our family. We decide stuff together. You gotta read it to us. His conviction got me. I read it out loud, my voice catching on one line. I'm taking 2 weeks away with a work colleague. I've never betrayed you, and without your okay, I never will. That lie, calling Ethan a colleague, tainted the whole thing. For the next hour, we talked it over, picking apart what Hannah might have been thinking. We landed on a hard truth. Depending on how far she'd gone, Hannah might have burned her place in our family. I tried to shield her. Kids, if she's done wrong, it's against me, not you. Don't let this change how you see her. Caleb wasn't having it. No, Dad. She lied to all of us. That's not how family works. His words hit like a hammer, and I saw how deep they cut. He was right. Back at the hotel, Hannah threw Ethan for a loop by booking a separate room on a different floor for a couple nights, with the option to stay longer if needed. When he asked why, she told him to unpack and meet her in the lobby in 3 hours. Ethan, a little stung but not arguing, agreed. When they met up, he couldn't help noticing how sharp Hannah looked in her outfit, and for a second, it pushed the weirdness aside. They'd spent the last month getting close, nothing more than kisses and light touches, but Ethan was itching for more. What's the deal, Hannah? He asked, confused. Think about it, she snapped, her voice low. We planned this whole thing together, but you got a text calling you out by name, warning you to keep your hands off me. Then you saw some guy who looked like Mason making a throat-cutting gesture. Now Mason's not picking up my calls, which isn't like him at all. I didn't realize how deep Hannah's fears ran until she laid it out for Ethan in that Costa Rican hotel lobby. There's a solid chance, 70%, I'd say, that Mason knows we're here, she told him, her voice steady but sharp. If he finds out we crossed that line, my marriage is toast, and I'm not ready to lose it. If he doesn't know, I can't just cut this trip short without lying, and after 25 years, he'd see right through me. Until I'm sure he's in the dark, we're keeping things strictly platonic. Ethan's face fell, clearly hoping for more, but Hannah shut him down before he could protest. Put yourself in Mason's shoes, she said. If you thought your wife was stepping out, what did you do? Simple, Ethan replied, shrugging. I'd hire a private eye to dig up the truth. The words hit Hannah like a jolt, and she noticed Ethan's eyes widen as he caught his own drift. Have you called your wife since we landed? She asked, scanning the lobby like she expected someone watching. Ethan glanced around, suddenly paranoid, as if cameras might be hidden in the potted plants. Hannah leaned in, her tone firm. You see it now, don't you? Stay out of my room, keep your hands off me, and if Mason calls, you tell me right away. Here's a list of numbers he might use. She handed him a slip of paper. Now give me a quick peck on the cheek, and we'll split for now. Ethan did as told, and they headed to their separate rooms, both on edge, feeling eyes on their backs. If either of them had traced the number from that threatening text Ethan got, they might have realized I was already piecing things together. Over the next 4 days, their trip was a clumsy dance of caution. They ate at the hotel's open-air restaurant, steered clear of any touch, and stuck close in case I called. Hannah dragged Ethan to boutique shops in San Jose and booked a guided jungle tour on Tuesday. Ethan, though, was getting antsy, his patience wearing thin. On Monday, Hannah picked up a cheap burner phone and made Ethan rehearse swapping to it if a sketchy call came through. Her worry spiked when Claire stopped replying to her emails, though Hannah told herself I might have just kept the kids longer at our cabin in Idaho. By Tuesday night, Ethan hit his limit. Without telling Hannah, he booked another room, slipped out, and spent the night with a local woman he met at a bar. Meanwhile, Hannah was holed up in her room, her anxiety through the roof. She spent hours Googling divorce laws and fired off an email to our family lawyer for advice. He confirmed her worst fears about what a split might look like, though he admitted it wasn't his expertise. By Friday, convinced I was onto her, Hannah moved to lock things down. She told the lawyer to freeze our assets, transfer our last empty lot in Boise to a trust shared with Claire, and set up separate trusts for Owen and Caleb, ones they couldn't touch until they were 18, needing 2 signatures, theirs and a guardian's, who the lawyer suggested should be him, not Hannah. With our family's finances secured, Hannah felt a flicker of relief. If this was all a false alarm, she could undo it later. That night, she slept better than she had all week. Come Saturday, everything crashed down on Hannah with 2 gut punches in a row. First, Ethan broke her rules and showed up at her room. He looked wrecked, confessing his wife, who'd been ghosting him, had called his brother asking where to send divorce papers. She'd found out Ethan wasn't on a work trip but on vacation. That's how I must have gotten wind of things, Ethan figured. He decided to fly home to deal with the mess. Hannah, shaken to her core, called our lawyer to finalize all the financial moves. She walked Ethan to the airport, then checked into his old room to cover her tracks. The second blow came from a post on Caleb's social media, announcing our divorce. Hannah stared at her screen, furious, muttering, "What the hell is Mason doing?" To her, divorce wasn't something you just declared on a whim, it needed talks, explanations, not this public stab. I'd always backed her career, letting her shine as the breadwinner while I held down the fort with the kids. Now, she felt like I was turning them against her. She prayed for some sign to stop her plans before they went too far. As her panic settled, Hannah tried to think straight. Someone, probably Ethan's wife, must have tipped me off. If Claire had ignored her and shown me that letter, it'd be even worse. Hannah reread it, cringing at how it mixed truth with lies, promises that sounded empty now. If I'd seen it, she knew I'd doubt everything, her claims of loyalty, her words about me being enough. Her biggest fear was my pride taking a hit. She hadn't physically betrayed me, but the letter and this trip screamed otherwise. She clung to the hope a private investigator's report would clear her name, at least for what happened in Costa Rica. Looking back, Hannah saw the bitter twist. She had everything, a family, a career, yet she'd risked it all for a taste of something new. Now, facing the loss of us, she still hadn't scratched that itch. Determined to fix it, she booked an early flight home, wrote a vague email to me via Claire to stall any big moves, and lined up a session with a marriage counselor. Back in Boise, Claire overheard me talking with our neighbor, Tom Reed, a lawyer buddy. He asked, "So, besides tipping off Ethan's wife, what else are you doing?" "Nothing yet," I said, voice low. "I'm waiting to hear Hannah's side before I decide on divorce." Claire cut in, sharp as a knife. "Dad, wake up. Mom's lawyer had me sign a trust that basically locks you out of our assets. She's drained most of the accounts. She's already moving against you." I stood there, stunned, as Claire spelled out Hannah's steps. She handed me a printed email from Hannah. I read it, then slid it to Tom, my chest tight with hurt and disbelief. I got Hannah's email through Claire, asking her to print a letter and pass it to me, stressing it was private between us. When I read it, it hit hard, but not in the way she probably hoped. Here's what she wrote, as best I can recall. "Claire, please print this and give it to your dad. Don't read it, this is just for him and me. Mason, I'm guessing you've figured out I wasn't honest about this trip's purpose or where I was headed. When I get back, I'm hoping we can sit down, and you'll hear me out as I apologize for screwing this up. You've always been patient with me, and I'm begging you to hold off on anything big until we talk. 2 things I need you to know. First, I love you, only you, always have, always will. Second, since we said I do, I've never stepped out on you. I know I've made you doubt me, but I'll do whatever it takes to prove I'm telling the truth. Set up a polygraph when I'm home, I'll take it, answer anything you ask. Once we sort this out, I'll make things right for how I've disrespected you. Please don't rush into anything like divorce. It'd crush us both, you'd lose the house you poured your heart into, half our nest egg. Think of the kids. A custody fight would tear us all apart. Give me a chance to explain when I'm back. Yours, Hannah." After I read it, Tom, my lawyer buddy, shook his head. If we didn't know what she's been up to, this'd sound convincing. I frowned, not following. "What's that mean?" Tom leaned in, his voice calm but firm. "I see this stuff all the time, Mason. This is a classic playbook. She's looking for a way out, and tested a new guy on this trip to see if he fits the bill. If he checked out, her next move would have been to quietly shift assets, turn the kids against you, and file for divorce. A letter like this, letting Claire see it. Makes you look soft, easier for the kids to pick her side. Endgame, leave you broke and alone. I shook my head, struggling to believe it. That's a stretch, Tom. His eyes narrowed. I can prove it. Call 3 top divorce lawyers in Boise. If any won't take your case, odds are she's already got them on her side. Common trick to block you from good representation. Doubting but curious, I dialed one of the best firms in town. They turned me down, saying they were swamped, not because Hannah had hired them, but I didn't know that then. Back at the house, I sighed. All right, Tom, I'm with you. What now? No hesitation, he said. Lock down every account she doesn't run. Cap joint spending. Cancel shared credit cards today. I paused, torn. Part of me still wants to believe she loves me, but this letter, it's like she's saying one thing and doing another. Claire, who'd been listening quietly, chimed in. Dad, are you sure Mom lied to you? Positive, I said, my voice steady. She held my gaze. Do you lie to people you love? Nope, I replied, softer now. What are the 3 things you always said make a marriage work? She asked. Love, trust, respect, I answered. How many of those you got left with Mom? She pressed. Just 1, I admitted. And how much is she showing you? Claire pushed harder. None, I said, the truth sinking in. Exactly, she said, her tone sharp enough to cut through the fog in my head. Over in Costa Rica, Hannah hit a wall when she tried to change her flight. Our credit cards were declined. Panicked, she bolted to an ATM, but her card got rejected there too. Taking stock, she realized she wasn't totally stranded. The hotel and meals were prepaid, so she had a roof and food. She had a couple $100 in traveler's checks, but not enough to stretch far. Asking her folks for cash would mean answering questions she wasn't ready for. She shot an email to our lawyer, asking why the accounts were frozen, and braced for a lean week until her flight home. How had her perfect plan unraveled so fast? She'd banked on me not making waves, figured her secret would stay buried. Boy, was she wrong. 2 emails made things worse. The first, from Ethan's wife, Tara, tore into Hannah, blaming her for wrecking a marriage and hurting Ethan's kid's future. The second came from Claire, attaching one of Hannah's emails to Ethan with a single line, "Why'd you lie to us, Mom?" Hannah realized the kids were part of her reckoning now, and Claire's silence took on a darker meaning. She wrote back, promising to clear up the misunderstanding when she got home. Claire's reply stung like a slap. Where'd you pick the vacation with some guy over Dad and us? All week, Hannah steered clear of the beach, not wanting a tan to fuel suspicions back home. She sent a long, hazy email to Claire, going on about bad choices and feeling undervalued as a wife and mom. She swore again she'd never betrayed me, but didn't really apologize, still leaning on her role as the family's earner to shield her. Back in Boise, I rounded up the kids to talk about what had happened when Hannah got home. Unless something changes, she's back Friday, I started. How do we handle it? Claire didn't hold back. Her latest email shows she thinks we're just a hassle. She picked a fling over us. Unless she owns up, I'm done. I nodded. Tough but fair. Owen, what about you? She's not getting it, Owen said quietly. I hope she figures it out. I turned to Caleb. What do you think? Don't care what she does, he said, firm. I just want to stay with you. I smiled at him, then laid out my plan. Your mom got lost somewhere, maybe after that big promotion. If she admits what she did and shows she's sorry, we give her a shot. If not, we figure out what's next. Sounds good? Claire hesitated, thinking of her brother's need for stability. Fine, Dad, we'll try. But her emails got no regret. Weirdly, I believe she hasn't gone all the way with him. I nodded. That's why I've got something planned, a wake-up call. She needs to feel the hurt she's caused. If she breaks down and owns it, we talk. If not, we'll decide what's best. Hannah wasn't ready for what came next. Claire sent her an email, addressed to me and the kids, laying out Hannah's return plans. When Hannah read it, it sent a shiver down her spine, knowing the clock was ticking. Hannah was due back in Boise late Friday night. The plan was for her to head straight to a polygraph test, with questions we all come up with, me, Claire, Owen, and Caleb. After that, she'd crash at a motel for 2 nights to think things over, with the option to ask for a family sit-down Saturday afternoon. Hannah wasn't thrilled about being told how to play this, but she figured she'd go along, betting the test would prove she hadn't crossed any physical lines. She thought that'd be enough to smooth things over with me. On the flight home, she started mulling over what questions I might throw at her. If they zeroed in on whether she'd been intimate with Ethan or anyone else, she felt safe. But if I asked about her intentions or how she'd acted as a wife, that got trickier, especially since she'd gotten close to Ethan and another guy, Marcus, from her office a while back. Worrying too much could spike her nerves during the test, so she told herself to stay cool. When she landed, Hannah kept her arrival time quiet, taking a cab to the testing center instead of letting anyone know. She didn't feel like she was winning anything, just weighed down, knowing this mess had slipped way out of her hands. At the center, the technician walked her through the process, starting with some warm-up questions to set a baseline. Then came the real one. 2 weeks ago, did you go to Costa Rica planning to step outside your marriage with Ethan Walsh? Yes, Hannah said, her voice steady. The technician checked the readings, jotted something down, and shut things off. That's it, he said. Hannah blinked, thrown. One question. That's all? Yep, the technician replied. And I bet your husband wrote it. Seems he's not hung up on whether anything happened in Costa Rica. He wanted to know what you were thinking. To him, your intentions were the real betrayal. He nodded toward a stack of divorce lawyer cards on the desk. Good luck, Mrs. Carter. Hannah sat there, gut-punched. Her whole plan to prove she'd stayed faithful physically had crashed and burned. Furious, she made a snap call. She hopped in a cab and headed home, hell-bent on facing me head-on. What she didn't know was that me, Owen, and Caleb were watching from a parked car across the street. We swapped quiet looks, glad we'd planned for this. The night before, I decided I wasn't ready for a blowout in front of the boys, so I drove us to the motel where Hannah's room was waiting. We switched off our phones to keep things calm. Hannah didn't reach out until late Monday, killing any hope she'd spent the weekend reflecting. That night, Claire handed me an email from Hannah, meant for all of us. It tore into me, accusing me of playing dirty by turning the kids against her. She said her lawyer was pushing for an emergency family court hearing to settle temporary custody of Owen and Caleb. On top of that, she'd booked a family session with a psychologist and a meeting Wednesday night to talk about what came next. Hannah had spent the weekend scheming to claw her way back. Her strategy had 3 angles: save our marriage through counseling. She picked a female counselor, hoping for an edge, explain herself to the kids in family sessions, and stack the deck legally if divorce was unavoidable. By Tuesday, she was already in the counselor's office in downtown Boise when I walked in. The counselor greeted me warmly, pointing us to chairs facing her, set a little apart. After quick introductions, Hannah using her first name, me sticking with Mr. Carter, she asked Hannah to start. Hannah launched into her side of things. I've been a loyal wife and mom our whole marriage, she said. Then I messed up bad. I lied to my family, went off with another guy for a getaway. Nothing physical happened, my actions prove that, but I can't deny I thought about it. I'm sorry, and I want to fix our marriage. The counselor turned to me. I kept it simple. My kids are hurt most by their mom's lies. She used her vacation to ditch us, left her phone behind on purpose to avoid us. And no, I didn't hire anyone to tail her in Costa Rica. Hannah's jaw dropped, she'd been sure I'd ever followed. I went on. I didn't want to believe she was with someone else until Claire cracked her email and found her plans with Ethan. I only cut off the credit cards after Claire showed me Hannah was trying to lock up our finances, leaving me with nothing. Hannah sat there, speechless, realizing Claire and Owen had caught her moves and seen them as betrayal. My voice got harder. As for what she's saying here today, sorry, but I don't buy a word of it. The counselor asked, what do you want from this, Mr. Carter? I want to know why my wife thought it was okay to lie and plan to step out on me, I said. That moment, we might have had a shot to work things out. Then the counselor muttered under her breath, well, aren't we old school? I froze. It hit me, Hannah had picked someone who'd likely side with her. I wasn't sticking around for that. I walked out. Instead of chasing me to talk, Hannah unloaded her frustration on the counselor. By the time she was done, I was long gone. The counselor said sorry, convinced Hannah to book another session, but the damage was done. Hannah reached out to me, saying sorry and offering a one-on-one counseling session, but I wasn't ready to bite. The family meeting we had planned for Wednesday went south fast. Hannah suggested we all grab dinner first, but Claire shot that down, pointing out Hannah's cooking wasn't exactly a draw. We agreed to show up at 7 p.m. at our Boise house. When we walked in, me, Claire, Owen, and Caleb, Hannah tried for hugs, but we weren't feeling it, keeping things stiff and distant. We settled on the couch, leaving her to sit alone across from us. She made a move to pull Claire to her side, but Claire wasn't budging. Hannah's face fell, and she launched into a speech she'd clearly rehearsed, but it was light on regret and heavy on justifications. She went on about feeling overlooked as the family's main earner, said my steady attention had gotten predictable, and admitted she craved the kind of flattery she used to get before we tied the knot. She tried to frame her trip with Ethan as giving into a younger guy's charm, nothing more. But the way the kids and I looked at her, stone cold and unyielding, she could tell she'd broken something that wasn't easily fixed. While she talked, she focused on Owen and Caleb, dodging my eyes. Claire sat there, jotting notes, her annoyance plain as day. Finally, Claire cut in. Wow, Mom, you're really letting me down again. Hannah looked thrown. What do you mean? I'd give your speech a solid 85 for cliches, Claire snapped. If you'd thrown in no one gets hurt if they don't know, you'd hit 100. Hannah's cheeks burned, whether from anger or shame, I couldn't tell. She saw the kids weren't buying her sob story, not while I still had their trust. Turning to me, her voice sharp, she said, Mason, kitchen. Now. Behind the closed door, she let loose, hissing, does it have to be like this? Me tearing you down until you're begging for mercy? I sighed, gutted by how ready she was to fight dirty. It doesn't, I said. If you'd just own what you did, we wouldn't be here. Drop that counselor, and we can talk. Otherwise, I'll see you in court. She didn't back down, so I cut it short. By Thursday, I'd moved into a 4-bedroom rental in a quiet Boise suburb, knowing this wasn't wrapping up anytime soon. I found out the custody hearing for Owen and Caleb was set for Tuesday. When I heard the judge's name, I called Tom, my lawyer friend. He warned me she often leaned against dads in these cases. Still, I decided to go it alone in court, no attorney. Tom spent the weekend coaching me on courtroom basics, and I prepped hard, focusing on what was best for the kids. I spent those days setting up the rental, making it a real home. Around the kitchen table, I laid out my plans for their future, keeping it straight with them. The kids perked up, pitching in with ideas, and we started mapping out what came next together. Tuesday rolled around, and Hannah's lawyer looked shocked when I said I'd represent myself. He knew Hannah might struggle under my questions. The court got bogged down in paperwork that day, so the real hearing pushed to Wednesday. By then, local news folks had sniffed out the drama, and the courtroom was humming with curiosity. Hannah's attorney kicked things off, diving into who owned what and how much Hannah earned. Then it was my turn to question her. Reporters noted how uneasy she looked as I stood up, keeping my voice even but firm. Hannah, I started, I built our family home in Boise with my own hands, right? Yes, she said softly, barely audible. And I brought in most of our income while you went back to work a couple months after each kid was born, correct? Yes, she replied, eyes fixed on the floor. Who handled breakfast, packed school lunches, cooked dinner for the kids? I asked. She squirmed. I worked long hours, she said, dodging. So, would you say I was the main one raising our kids? I pressed, zeroing in. Probably, she admitted, reluctant. I shifted gears, my tone cutting sharper. You lied to me and the kids recently, then took off to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, planning to step out with another man, didn't you? Her lawyer jumped up. Objection, Your Honor. Infidelity is irrelevant to custody. I stayed cool. Your Honor, I'm not hung up on infidelity. I'm questioning her character as a fit parent. The judge thought it over. Objection overruled. Hannah tensed, trying to explain. I went to Costa Rica for a break, and a male colleague came along, she said, her voice shaky. I held up her letter, not waiting for her to dodge again. I read it out loud, every word landing like a hammer in the quiet room. Reporters scribbled like mad, and Hannah's silence screamed louder than any defense. When you got back, I said, did you say sorry to me or the kids for lying and planning to betray us? The room went dead quiet, her steely glare the only answer. I wrapped up. Your Honor, this is simple. I've been the primary caregiver. The kids belong with me in the home I built, where they've grown up. Unlike Hannah, I haven't lied or turned my back on my family. I'm asking for full custody and for her to stop pulling our kids into her mess. I sat down, ignoring the heat of Hannah's stare boring into my back. The judge didn't waste time, ruling that temporary custody of the kids and the house went to Hannah, citing research favoring mothers in splits. Hannah gave a smug little smile, but I kept my cool. I'd seen this coming. Standing again, I spoke up. Your Honor, I'd like to point to your past rulings where primary caregivers kept custody. I rattled off cases and threw in studies showing kids don't always thrive most with their mom. So tell me, Your Honor, I said, can a dad like me even stand a chance in your courtroom? The judge, caught off guard by my question, wrapped up the session quickly. Before heading out, I handed copies of Hannah's letter, the one that laid bare her intentions, to a couple of reporters lingering nearby. I didn't look back. Hannah's lawyer patted her on the back, but she wasn't celebrating. My words about her lack of regret had hit a nerve. Instead of taking a hard look at herself, she doubled down, ready to fight. Claire, sharp as ever, pushed me to keep the pressure on. I filed a complaint with the federal court, calling out the judge for bias. That weekend, I settled the kids, Claire, Owen, and Caleb, into our rental in a Boise suburb. We spent those days fixing it up, tossing around ideas for what came next, making it ours. Tuesday's custody hearing came around, and Hannah's lawyer looked stunned when I said I'd handle my own case. In court, I stayed steady, laying out how I'd been the one raising the kids while Hannah's lies piled up. The reporters ate it up, noting how she squirmed under my questions. I read her letter aloud, each word hanging heavy, and her silence said more than any defense could. Your Honor, I finished, I've been the one there for my kids, day in, day out. Hannah's choices show she's not fit to guide them. They belong with me. The next day's headlines roasted Hannah and threw shade at the judge's call. Things got worse for her at home. The kids went to her place when they had to, but they kept their distance, barely talking. Hannah fumbled simple stuff like packing school lunches, just handing them cash for the cafeteria instead. At a solo counseling session, she laid out her terms for taking me back, then admitted she'd gotten too close to 2 other guys before Ethan, nothing physical, she stressed, but only because it didn't pan out. She couldn't wrap her head around why I cared so much, figuring intentions didn't count if she hadn't acted on them. The counselor shut that down, saying reconciliation was a long shot since I was hung up on her deceit and what she'd planned. The next day, I met with the same counselor, keeping it short. I told her to either point me to someone neutral or call the marriage done. Scared of tanking her reputation, she picked the second option and filed a report saying our marriage was kaput. Back at the rental, I found Owen and Caleb settling in. A cop showed up, waving a court order, but the boys flat out refused to go with Hannah. When she rolled up, she demanded, Mason, just tell them to come with me. Give me the house, and I'll play fair with visits and splitting things. Leave, Hannah, I said, calm but firm. I'm not forcing them to do something they think is wrong. Mason, I'm not a bad person. You know me, she pleaded. I don't, I shot back, ice in my voice. The woman I married wouldn't have lied, betrayed me, shown zero regret, and tried to bully me into accepting it. I found out yesterday about your 2 other near misses. What did I do to earn this? What's your next move? Hannah's face went red, anger, guilt, maybe both. She realized the counselor had spilled her secrets. Unable to snap at me, she turned it inward, fuming. She had no right to tell you, she muttered, her grip on things slipping. I stayed quiet as she stormed off. Later, I deleted the recording Owen had slipped into her bag before her session, sure the counselor would face her own fallout. I wasn't wrong, 4 days later, she got canned. Saturday, Children's Services showed up to enforce the custody ruling, but Owen and Caleb wouldn't budge unless someone dragged them out. When the officers explained the court's call, Owen fired back, then the court's wrong. We're not living with someone who hurt our dad. The officers left, stumped. Hannah spent the next week trying to patch things up with the kids, but they ignored her calls and trashed her texts. When she tried talking to me, I cut it short once I saw she wasn't owning anything. Frustrated, I brought Tom on as my divorce lawyer. With Claire's help, I found out Hannah was gearing up for another work trip, burning vacation days. I focused on getting the kids settled, helping them plan for what's ahead. When Hannah got back that Friday, she froze in her tracks. The Boise house she loved? Gone. In its place was a beat-up fixer-upper I'd snagged at an insurance auction. Inside, her stuff was boxed up neat, new locks on the doors, and a copy of the title deed sat on the floor. It showed she still owned the land, but the house wasn't hers anymore. She called her lawyer, who confirmed it was all above board. Hannah cursed herself, realizing Claire had taken charge of the family trusts. She'd been so sure the kids would back her. Blinded by anger and feeling sorry for herself, she wrote the kids a letter, asking, "Do you really hate me this much?" I answered for them, "We don't hate you. You knew I'd always protect our family, even from you." Monday, Hannah got my divorce papers at her office. At first glance, it looked fair, giving her full claim to our joint property. But then came the deductions: Costa Rica trip costs, legal fees, and penalties for her financial stunts. Custody would hinge on what the kids wanted, with Caleb's choice breaking any tie. When Hannah tried to undo the kids' trusts, her financial guy shut her down. "He planned it airtight," he said, almost impressed. She pushed to get a new counselor, but since the first one had called our marriage dead, she needed my okay, which I wasn't giving. I reminded her I'd suggested a neutral one weeks back, but she'd shot it down. Too late now. With no better play, Hannah signed the divorce agreement. She kept custody rights and access to the trusts as the kids' guardian, but lost our second Boise lot and other assets. The divorce wrapped up fast, leaving her to deal with the fallout alone. Her lawyer swore the case would stay with the same family court judge, known for leaning one way, and admitted he usually told guys to fold under her. Hannah was counting on walking away with everything, leaving me with nothing. Hannah walked into that Boise courtroom a month later, cocky as hell, probably daydreaming about swooping back into my life on her terms or leaving me to scrape by. But her lawyer looked like he'd seen a ghost, pointing out a woman in a sharp suit sitting in the back. "She's with the chief federal judge," he whispered. "Something's up, and it ain't good." That shook Hannah. The judge kicked things off by announcing she was retiring early, her voice dripping with resentment. As the hearing got rolling, Hannah's lawyer pushed back on my request for her to cover legal fees, saying we should each handle our own. Tom, working for me pro bono, shut that down quickly, pointing out he wasn't charging me a dime. Things turned south for Hannah fast. Tom laid out rock-solid proof I'd been the kid's main caregiver, while Hannah's lawyer, banking on the judge's usual bias, came up empty. The judge kept glancing at that woman in the gallery, looking like she was on a leash. Her ruling hit Hannah like a freight train. I got custody, and she even called my property split generous. Hannah sat there, dazed, as the gavel dropped. Back at her cramped one-bedroom apartment in a Boise rental complex, Hannah felt crushed but didn't have time to wallow. She'd listed our old lot for sale, expecting a big payout from the divorce. That place, once a gem with its custom landscaping, needed a specific kind of house to shine, so the price tanked. At the settlement meeting, she showed up to sign over the deed, only to be told the buyers were running late. When my truck pulled up, followed by cranes hauling pieces of our old house, it clicked: I'd bought it. She bolted without a word. At her place, she stared at the pitiful check, all that was left of the life she'd thought she'd nailed down. She grabbed her journal and scrawled in red ink, "Next time you're restless, hit a drugstore. Next time you screw up, say sorry. You're not half as clever as you think." 8 weeks later, Hannah figured she'd try to make nice. She bought a bottle of champagne and drove to the restored Boise property to congratulate us and maybe show a little humility. The bottle sat next to her in the car, its gold label catching the sunlight. She'd practiced this moment a dozen times, picturing a warm welcome, maybe even a fresh start grounded in regret and honesty. But when she pulled into the driveway, the house, rebuilt with the same care I'd always put into it, stood like a quiet reminder of what she'd underestimated. She knocked, and Claire answered, her face cautious but not outright cold, giving Hannah a sliver of hope. "Hey, Mom," Claire said, flat, stepping aside to let her in. Inside, the dining room was set for a family dinner. Me, Owen, and Caleb were arranging plates, laughing together, the kind of warmth that made Hannah feel like she didn't belong. She handed Claire the champagne. Claire raised an eyebrow but took it without a word. I looked up, meeting her eyes. No anger, but none of the old softness either. "Hannah," I said with a nod, nothing more. "I wanted to congratulate you on the house," Hannah started, her voice wobbling a bit. "It looks incredible. You've done wonders." "Thanks," I said, turning back to the table, more focused on dinner than her. It stung her, but she pushed on. "I also need to apologize," she said, louder now, making the room go quiet as the kids turned to listen. "I messed up big time. I hurt you all, and I'm so sorry. I hope you can forgive me one day." Caleb broke the silence, his voice a mix of hurt and curiosity. "Why, Mom? Didn't we mean anything to you?" Tears welled up in Hannah's eyes. You meant everything, she said, her voice cracking. I got lost, thinking I needed something else, something new. I was wrong. You all deserve so much better. Claire crossed her arms, skeptical. Okay, you're sorry. But sorry doesn't undo it all. What now? Hannah nodded, owning it. You're right. I'm not expecting things to snap back. I just want a chance to prove I'm working on myself. I finally spoke, keeping it even. Hannah, it's good you're thinking things through, but the trust we had? It's gone. Trust is what holds people together. Rebuilding it, if that's even possible, takes time and real effort. I get that, she said quietly. I'm not asking for anything today. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I've started therapy, joined a group for folks who've made mistakes like mine. It's helping me figure out why I went down this road. Her honesty landed, though none of us jumped to respond. After a beat, Owen piped up, careful but fair. That's a start, Mom. But it's what you do, not what you say, that matters. I know, Hannah said. I'm ready to show you I mean it, one step at a time. I stood and opened the door, signaling the talk was done. Thanks for stopping by, I said. Take care. Hannah nodded, catching the hint. As she walked to her car, she glanced back at the house, glowing with the kind of love and togetherness she'd thrown away but now wanted to shield, even from a distance. Over the next year, she threw herself into turning things around, diving into her job, volunteering, sticking to the personal growth she'd promised. She didn't see us much, but when we crossed paths, it was civil, and little sparks of warmth started creeping in. Claire suggested Hannah write letters to the kids, sharing old memories and thoughts without expecting replies. One day, Caleb sent a short note back, "Thanks for the letter, Mom. Not ready to talk, but I'm glad you're trying." That one line kept her going. She knew the path to making things right was long, but she was ready to walk it, step by step.